Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gamer Breakfast podcast, brought to you by the site GamerBreakfast.com.
How do you get them as a sponsor?
Yeah, they're getting
Are
big
they
time,
hard to
man. They got a
get?
podcast now. Actually, I'm your host Clay. This is your other host Jordan. We're the main two writers for Gamer Breakfast. Jordan's written one pretty good story, and
Yeah, like
I write
about a year and a half ago.
I write one about every 3 months or so. So
All right, we're gonna get pace then.
yeah. So I thought the first thing we do is right now, I just have a banner. Jordan can't see the video, but
Yeah,
I
I'm
have a
going
banner.
blind here.
I have a banner that says Gamer Breakfast Podcast, and that's kind of a bad name. I thought we'd just spend like a minute like naming the podcast.
Oh man, you put me on the spot.
Yeah, dude. So I can like edit this in real time. So we'll just like think of like a better name.
Think of a better name.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, a lot of times podcasts they have names that like is a play on the word podcast, or
Yeah,
they add
yeah.
cast to the end of it. It like
Yeah, all right.
there's something almost there with like breakfast.
Breakcast.
That's like really awkward. It doesn't roll off the tongue at all.
Breakcast.
Breakfast cast doesn't
Yeah.
sound good either. So, like it's
All right.
cast, but
No man, this is tough.
yeah,
I should have been jotting stuff down.
yeah. We can come back to it if you want to just think about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we better let this ruminate for a bit.
All
We
right,
don't want to make any hasty decisions on what
yeah,
to name the
we'll be
game of
stuck with it
breakfast.
for the next 100 episodes.
I know, yeah. We'll be pigeonholed
Yeah,
with this terrible name that we come up with on the fly.
yeah. That's kind of what happened on the website. So
Yeah.
happens.
And the band The Beatles. That happened with the band The Beatles.
Oh,
It's a little known
was that
fact.
a thing they just came up with? The
I don't know,
Beatles?
I just made that up.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not that good a name. So yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Let's write a letter to Sir Paul McCartney.
I'm gonna open my Mountain Dew Kickstart right now.
Alright, I'm drinking a Dad Gummit cream butterscotch soda, so
Yeah,
maybe they'll give some money.
yeah.
Game of Breakfast podcast. I think you're out of luck with Mountain Dew Kickstart.
Well,
I don't think
yeah.
they're going to give you any money,
Well,
but
we can
who
try
knows?
Coke. This we can't get Pepsi. Go for some Coke money. They like throwing stuff at me
Hey,
and stuff.
Cedar Rapids, you got the in.
Oh, is there a bottler here?
No, man, they own Quaker Oats.
Oh,
Like the main industry in
no,
your town besides your industry.
no. That's Pepsi.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. I thought you were talking about Coke. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. I just thought we'd kind of do a podcast, like maybe weekly if we can get it going. And right now it's just me and Jordan, but like we have other friends, so hopefully I can get some other people
Yeah.
interested in.
We used to work at Target in high school, so hopefully some of those guys will show up.
Yeah,
Wayne from Target, that'd be good. He'd be a good guest. He's probably got some stories.
maybe we can reach out. Still friends of Hillary. I see Boots delivering pizzas every once in a while.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
there you go.
can definitely
We
reach
shouldn't
out.
talk about this because literally nobody on earth would care. Like assuming other people are gonna watch this, they probably aren't gonna care very much about our time at Target. Um, but who knows? You know, if
Yeah.
we get 10,000 Twitter likes or whatever.
What's your favorite like Target memory? Put you on the spot.
Oh man, favorite Target memory?
Yeah. Do you have a classic?
I don't know. I the thing that always gets me is when they asked us to do cashier training for like 2 years and then we never did it.
Yeah. Can you imagine like at your current job doing that? Like
Yeah,
your
just
boss
we're
asks
just
you to do something, and you put it off for 2 years.
yeah, I
Not
don't
only do you
know.
put it off, you like say you'll do it and just blow it off.
Yeah. No, that wasn't being a very responsible high school student, but what do you know? It didn't hurt my permanent record too bad. I've
I,
only probably lost like 3 or 4 potential jobs
I remember
due
like
to Target references.
I remember when like they had like the I can't remember his name, like Nate maybe, the guy that, like they called the Walker,
Yeah, yeah,
because he just walked around.
yeah. Everyone knows Nate. Everyone watching this would know
Yeah.
Nate.
Well, I remember
Yeah.
like when they had figured out like a way to like overload the the LRUs, the or what were they called? The
LRT. Yeah.
LRT. LRUs
Yeah,
weren't
it
really
was,
working out.
yeah, it was like you typed in like one. It was something like you typed in all zeros or something.
Yeah, and then you entered this into the system, and it would crash our whole inventory system, and so no one could
Yeah,
do their work.
yeah. Cutter would do that too.
And it was kind of just like I don't know like how many people knew it, and it was I just like at the time I was uh, like I can't believe you guys are doing this, man. Like you guys are all gonna get fired.
Yeah.
But looking back, man, that's pretty funny. It's like,
No, we were actually pretty good employees.
well,
Like
yeah,
on the
yeah,
Target employees. Like we didn't steal anything. We
no,
came to work most every day.
yeah, no, we didn't do the no call, no show thing.
Yeah.
We like actually did work while we were there. I mean, we messed around a lot, but
Yeah, no. We did our job.
uh,
We had a weird job though where we could like leave early if we got it done early. So we always had incentive to get it done like quickly.
yeah, that's true. Like you were almost like bummed out, like you had to stay. Oh, you were bummed out. It just got
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought it was funny when I quit Target. It's like I never actually quit. I just got a check in the mail one day that's like, you no longer working here. Here's your vacation.
Yeah.
I was
I had
like,
a
wow, I wasn't
I had
expecting
like,
that. It was actually pretty nice.
yeah. I hope we're gonna edit all this stuff out.
No, this is
But I remember like
this is the
I worked at
conversational.
Target and then they built like a big new Target, right? Like the big super Target. And I came back from college and I was like, I need a job. And they called me into Target like for one weekend only. And they were like, all right, what we need you to do is like go and sort out the electronics room because like in the Target that we had, the electronics was just like this like upstairs
Right, the
like
cage.
area,
Yeah.
but like that Target had its own like separate electronics like storage room that was like separate from the back room. So I went over there, and I used to like working on electronics, like when I worked at Target, because you get to look at the games and the DVDs and stuff.
Yeah, the new albums and
Yeah, but I went back there and it was just like literally like full of shopping carts. Like you could barely walk in there,
everything.
like full of CDs and like mostly it was CDs that had to be like organized and like put away. It was a nightmare. Can you like an entire shopping cart like full of CDs
Yeah.
and then like but just an entire room full of them. Right?
Like where do you start?
Yeah, it was absurd. Like, and I only worked there for like one weekend, and then they never called me back. So I must not have done a very good job. But
Yeah.
then I ended up working someplace that was much better anyway. So sorry, Target. Target was a very good job, but the other place was better.
I don't remember like I think like I kind of did the same thing I remember, and I remember Rory was working there at the time, our buddy Rory, and like he was working grocery. Uh I worked about one or two weekends over Christmas break, and that was yeah the last thing, and then I worked for the sewer department after that.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I like got fired or what,
Did you
because
ever
I
get the
remember
vacation check?
I did. I got my vacation check eventually, but like I showed up and I was like I had to quit. It was like the weirdest thing. Like I showed up because I got this other job. So I was like, I showed up and I said, "Hey, I'm not gonna be able to work here anymore." And they were like, "Well, you haven't been on the schedule for the last couple weeks anyway." So I'm like, all right, well, I guess it all works out. So I never quite knew like what happened there, or like why I wasn't on the schedule. But I don't know. I did a decent enough job for a high school kid.
Yeah, and
Can't complain.
like I remember like always kind of like it's just like it was like a easy job, but I never like I don't know where I'm going with this.
I don't know where we're going either. I remember they had me stacking pallets, and I was terrible at stacking pallets.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of I was like there was like there's like a physical part to it. Like I remember like when we jumped on like because our first job was like unloading the truck when we started in the summer. Like
Yeah.
we had to get in there
Like
at
a
like 5 o'clock or whatever and unload the truck. And like I remember like jumping in there and like unloading it with that guy we called the Psycho Grandpa. And
Yeah.
but I think you worked more like on the line, like sorting everything out, like coming down the conveyor belt or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember liking that, but then I would go to health and beauty and I'd work there for like an hour on like putting the shampoo away over. Then if there was stuff to do, I would stay. If there wasn't, I'd go home. So pretty,
Yeah.
pretty good
I
job.
remember the first day that we worked, like we had to watch all those videos and stuff. Those like Target videos, and like one was like, "Don't cut yourself with the box cutter." I never worked a job before, right, in my life, but it's like cut away from you, don't cut toward you,
Yeah,
and all this like common sense box cutter wisdom
right.
that's been passed down from target generation to target generation on how not to cut yourself with a box cutter. And then we were working in the part with the chemicals, early in the morning that first day, and we're cutting open boxes. First day, I just sliced my hand like open, and like it was my first day at a job,
Yeah.
like any job. So then I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna get fired because I like didn't listen to the box cutter wisdom, like sliced my hand open. But they didn't fire me. They gave me a band-aid.
Yeah, I sliced my hand that summer too, and I remember it was very I was trying to like I'd get off work like the basketball camp was starting like at 10 o'clock, so or something like that, and so I tried to get off work by then. Kind of going fast, and I sliced all the way down the top of my thumb, and I had to go to like shoot shoot basketball after that. Like good game.
It's nasty. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it was a
All right, that's enough
all right.
target talk.
Yeah,
Let's get
yeah. Well, we
serious.
got another hour or so of target, and we'll circle back to it at times.
If we're gonna do target talk, we need to bring Matt on. Like and
Matt,
some
Matt
other
was
target
Matt
advice.
was like in a different part of Target though, so we don't have too many shared memories.
He could just
But
give us like other people's impression of us though. That'd be
yeah,
good.
yeah, we can
It's
we
like
can
we
move
think
on.
we're great, right? So like
Oh yeah, I
we
still
could,
think I was the best employee Target.
we could get the real story.
Yeah, the funny thing is, I was not a bad Target employee, but then I became like a really good employee, like at every place after that. So who knows?
To set you on the path for
Yeah.
greatness.
All right. What do you want to talk about?
Okay,
We're
so I got two main topics for today. The site,
all
if you
right.
haven't been there, guys, it covers games, um, comics, movies, television. Um, I think that's about it. But just kind
Hey,
of just pop culture bullshit that everyone's used to.
yeah.
But it's just kind of like my little outlet to, and mostly the thing I like writing about is the trip reports lately, where we go to something and I write about it. I didn't actually write one for Wizard World, but I thought
Yeah.
about it. So, anyways, the big comic news uh, this week was the new X-Men movie, and then
Yeah.
also, so I thought we'd start with that,
All
and
right.
I thought it'd be kind of fun just to do a little retrospective because these movies have been around almost 20 years now, 16 years, I think
Yeah. Yeah.
that one
It
came
was
out
right
when
around.
we were seniors in high school, I think
Yeah, senior in
that's
high
that
school.
summer. Like what do you remember about like going to X-Men when it first came out?
Oh, I remember I was really excited when and it was funny because I just watched this the other day, the original X-Men trailer, right?
Okay.
Because now like trailers are like super important. Like the Rogue One trailer just came out and stuff,
Hmm.
and it's always like a big event when a trailer comes out. But I watched that like old trailer, and
Yeah.
it's much more like a '90s and '80s trailer than what we get now with
Yeah.
like the Inception womps and stuff.
Right. No,
But I remember,
yeah, I noticed the same thing when I watched Phantom Menace trailer the other day. I was like, this would not cut the mustard today. Like when that trailer came out, it was the greatest trailer ever, the Phantom Menace trailer.
yeah,
But like if you go back and watch it now, you're like, this was not really that good a trailer. Maybe because you know the movie. But yeah,
yeah, and
I'm sorry.
the original X Men trailer is a lot like that. I mean, it's like I used to go rent movies and watch old VHS tapes all the time when I was in high school, and they'd always have really bad trailers, and it's like the intermediate between that, like the inner world, where it just
Uh-huh. Sure.
like has this weird, all this disparate plot nonsense, and then to like the very professionally produced commercial products that we have now.
Yeah, the 3-act trailer that we have now, basically.
Yeah, but I remember being super excited when I watched that trailer because Wolverine and Sabretooth were fighting in the snow.
Hmm.
And I thought that was going to be the sweetest thing ever, because there's just something about two guys fighting in the snow
Yeah,
with
snow makes it
claw
better.
hands. Yeah. So I was super excited about that. And, it was the first, like, big superhero
It
movie.
really was. It was like before that we were seeing like the Batman movies, which
Yeah.
had by that time gotten pretty flat.
Yeah.
And, and this was kind of like before even Spider-Man. Like, that wasn't for a couple
Oh,
more
yeah.
years. So
It,
this was really the big the this was before everything, and it was really the big special effects were good enough that we were going to start doing superhero movies.
yeah. It was like Blade, but everyone says Blade is the start, but I don't think many people really consider Blade like a superhero movie.
Sure.
Um, so this was the first superhero movie, and I was a dude that grew up with comic books, and I still love comic books. And we grew up in a generation where uh, X Men was huge for like three, yeah, maybe that's overstating it, like 2 years, maybe, like
Yeah,
when we were in
I did not
elementary
collect
school to middle
comics,
school.
but I did not collect comics, but I watched the cartoon all the time. We played all the video games. Everyone knew all the X-Men, even if they didn't collect comics. They knew all the characters, all their powers. We collected the cards. So even if you weren't into the comics, the X-Men was just around.
Yeah, it had penetrated the pop culture world,
Yeah.
so to speak. And so I was excited to see, this movie, right?
Mhm.
And I think we go to that together?
I, I, I don't remember. I think you guys, so yeah, I feel kind of bad about this, but I think what happened was, I think you guys went with like Bob and stuff on like a Friday night, and I was hanging out with my summer future girlfriend Melissa at the time, and we did not go to X-Men with you guys. I think that story might happen a few more times that we're talking, but I think that was one of the first. I think that was one of the first occurrences of me ditching you guys. If
Stuff
you,
happens.
yeah,
But
so
yeah, I couldn't remember
I
like
don't
if
think
you
I
had,
went. Yeah, I did
because I
see it
know,
in theaters, but I think you guys went with like Scott and Bob.
yeah, yeah, because they were, yeah, I have other friends that were super excited about seeing it too, mainly for Wolverine. Everyone loved Wolverine. Um, but I know we had the same, I think, general thought because I remember us talking about it after we walked out. I went to X Men, and to tell you the truth, I didn't like X Men very much. Um, I just didn't think it was that good a movie.
Right.
And still to this day, I don't think it's a very good movie. I think there's some decent parts in it as a whole, but it's very much a product of its time. And then also the special effects weren't quite there yet because I don't think they realized what. Well, of course they didn't realize that in 2016, half our movies are going to be superhero movies,
Hmm.
and they're going to be like the 10 cool movies for like the entire movie industry. So the budget wasn't that great.
Right.
The special effects weren't anything, super exciting. Like they're not the overkill that they've become today, where like cities are being destroyed in every
Yeah.
2 seconds. But it was very bare bones. I liked Hugh Jackman. I still like Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Let's
I
talk about
liked,
the casting for a second because like this kind of set the precedent for kind of your good casting and your bad casting in like in a superhero film, right? So we got
yeah,
Hugh Jackman, which like everyone considered like was kind of the breakout star, right? So he
yeah,
went on to play this character like 9 more times or something like that.
yeah.
And then we had,
Apparently loves it. Apparently just loves playing Wolverine.
yeah,
Like
like
he
what a
always
kid.
says he's gonna stop, and then he just like always just comes back. So,
And then
and
we had
singing people. He likes playing Wolverine and anybody's singing.
maybe
Those are
that
the
can
two
combine it
things.
someday. But then we had Patrick Stewart as Professor X, which was everyone growing up always said, if there's the X-Men, Patrick Stewart has to be Professor X
Yeah,
just on looks alone, basically.
yeah,
But
because he was bald.
I think, yeah, because he's bald and has kind of that,
Leadership.
yeah. So right, so it's just like it's like a what's the word I'm looking for when you cast like a
I don't know,
I
man.
don't
You're
know.
finding
Sorry,
your own
yeah,
name.
I'm not very good at this podcasting yet, but but then we had stuff like Sookie playing Rogue. I can't remember her name. What's it, Anna Paquin or
Suki.
yeah,
No, it's Suki from like True Blood. I thought
yeah,
you said
yeah.
Snooki.
Snooki, no,
I'm
Sookie,
like,
dude.
that's a dated reference.
True Blood, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Which
and
I
yeah,
like that like, and maybe because I was only exposed to um the cartoon and whatnot, but like I always thought that casting was like bad. Or like I didn't really know what was going on there with like Rogue. Why was she like so much younger than everyone? Was that always the thing in the comics, or? But to me, it always seemed like off, like to kind of make her the star of the movie almost. And
yeah. Well, like one thing about like the X Men, I think, is the X Men have always had like this theme of like young, well, because it's a school and stuff, of like a young character being introduced. So like it was like Kitty Pryde was like the first one,
hmm
and but she could like walk through walls and stuff, and uh and then Jubilee like in the '90s, like when we were, like the
yeah,
X Men
right,
cartoon show was Jubilee basically.
right.
Um, so they were just basically made
They're using
Rogue.
her, yeah. But she's not that interesting yet when she doesn't have like super strength and can't fly and whatnot,
But she
right?
does have a great moment where like Wolverine picks her up from a car and like because he's like bar fighting or something. It's been a long time since we've seen that movie, and he meets Rogue for the first time, and I can't remember her real name, which is bad. But they're like in the car, and he's like, "What's your name?" And she's like, "Rogue." She just like came up with a superhero name. Like she doesn't know who the X Men are, or like neither one of them have met the X Men at this point, but she just for some reason gave herself the name Rogue, which always thought was funny.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Uh,
What did you think of like Magneto? Because like he would also would like kind of be ever present like after that movie. It was like it's always kind of either the big bad or he's like with the big bad.
yeah, and maybe to kind of foreshadow my thoughts on the newest X Men movie. Uh, a lot of these movies seem to repeat or like reverse the arc when it comes to Magneto. Like,
Sure.
like it's just like he starts the first movie as just a pure villain,
Right. He's
and
gonna turn
then
everyone into mutants, basically.
yeah, which was dumb. That whole thing was dumb. I mean, uh,
Yeah.
if you turn them into water people or whatever, like it was silly. It just it doesn't seem like it's any sort of real threat. And
Yeah,
um,
that's kind of the problem with a lot of these movies. It's the villain is the hard part to do, right?
yeah, but Magneto. I mean, Magneto is a strong antagonist. I think. Um, you know, I just think they overuse that well in these movies so much that they're constantly turning him from good to bad, from bad to good. Where it just loses its luster. Uh, but at least he's a strongly defined antagonist,
hmm
which a lot of these superhero movies don't have. Particularly the Marvel movies. The Marvel movies, especially, um, do not have any great villains yet. And it's been how many of these movies?
Right.
They've yet to have a great villain. I think Magneto is actually a strong villain. Uh,
And maybe that's why everyone liked this last Captain America movie so much was the the infighting was actually more interesting than like the villains they've had so far.
Yeah, it's I think it's very weird to me because you think about comic book villains. I mean, probably the high mark of the superhero trend as far as art goes in movies would be the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy,
Right.
um, and especially the latter two movies. I think, um, with the Dark Knight obviously being the main highlight, and that's a movie that's completely driven by an antagonist, who is a completely memorable character.
Hmm.
And then the third movie with Tom Hardy's Bane, which is kind of a silly character, but the performance elevates that character. But we've seen nothing like that in any of these Marvel movies.
Sure.
So and the X-Men movies, one of the things is Sir Ian McKellen is a great actor. Not the most physically imposing person in the world.
Right.
Uh,
Like very. I
uh,
remember thinking like, man, they made Magneto old, like very
yeah,
very old.
which he would be if he were a Holocaust survivor,
Yeah.
like in
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
yeah. And then he had his kind of cronies in that first movie. Like Ray Park was
It's Toad.
Toad.
Yeah. And I always remember you saying one of your big beefs was there's the part where Ray Park like picks up a staff and like when they're fighting towards the end, and instead he just does a little dance with the staff. Like this
Yeah,
guy who's just been in Phantom Menace doing like the most amazing double lightsaber fight of all time. And
yeah,
like he
and
has the
maybe that's
staff in his hands and he just does a dance up. You're like, come on.
yeah. No, I thought the fighting in the movie was bad. The action wasn't that good.
What
There's
about
some good character moments. There's a lot of Josh Whedon because he like had a hand in writing that script.
oh, okay.
And there's these quips in there which I just feel like are weird and out of place.
Like the
And
classic Storm
he
line.
likes to brag about those clips, like oh, I wrote this scene that everyone thinks is funny, and it's like that's not really that funny. It's in
It's got the infamous line with Storm asking, "Do you know what happens when a toad gets hit by lightning?"
yeah, and yeah, and everyone talks about that line, and I think like Joss Whedon says something like, "Well, it wasn't supposed to be delivered that serious," and I'm like, "This is a terrible line." I mean, even if that's a quip, that's
Right.
still terrible. Holly Berry is horrible in that movie. Holly Berry is generally not a very good actress.
Hmm.
Uh, she's very bad in that movie. She's got that weird white wig that just looks completely fake the entire time.
It does. It looks
Uh,
bad.
what else can I say about the casting in that movie?
Yeah.
James Marsden is a good Cyclops. I liked him.
Yeah, I always thought
Um,
he got kind of the short end. Like, there should have been more. In general, there should have been more Cyclops in these. Feels like,
yeah,
and maybe that's just a
Famke.
product of me coming from the cartoon again, where he was like the main character. It seemed.
I mean, he has that interesting relationship with Wolverine, and the straight arrow and stuff.
I also
Um,
remember everyone being very disappointed that like Gambit wasn't in it, right?
yeah, Gambit's kind of a weird character. In the '90s, Gambit was pretty huge,
Right.
but that's a tough character to do well. I think.
And
Um,
they did try later on in Wolverine Origin or whatever it was called.
yeah, and there's supposedly going to be a Gambit movie or something like that, which I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
will be wonderful. Um,
Channing
based on
Tatum.
the track record.
Yeah, Channing
Uh,
Tatum playing Gambit.
yeah, I mean, I liked Gambit when I was a kid. He was like my favorite character when I was like 8 or 9 or 10 or whenever.
Hmm.
He was big because he just had that kind of cool atmosphere to him. But he's kind of a ridiculous, over the top character. He's got a lot of weird backstory to him. He's got the Cajun accent, the weird '90s costume with the trench coat and
The
stuff
bounty.
that
Yeah,
that
sure.
hasn't aged. You know,
Right.
um, so he's difficult to do well. I think the lineup of X-Men that they had was pretty good considering the budget that they had.
Hmm.
Storm, uh, who else? Cyclops, Rogue, um,
And then the villains we had Toad,
Jean
Sabretooth,
Grey.
and Mystique was like Mystique was like kind of also a character that was kind of ever present after this movie, and
Well,
I
yeah,
never remember her being such a big deal. But then again, I didn't read the comics, but
she's not.
they they made her the deal, you know.
Yeah, now she's the deal. That's a reality of I think the movie making world more than anything in the comics. I mean, she's a interesting antagonist in the comics, but she never was a huge,
And they
you
kind
know.
of do the same thing with her with the flip flopping throughout the series.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I don't know how you want to structure this discussion, but
It's kind of all over at the moment,
yeah, uh,
but
but it is interesting. Like in casting Mystique in the original movies, it was Rebecca Romaine
right.
Stamos, who's now just Rebecca Romaine.
Mhm.
Um, which is important for
Stamos.
everyone to know. She doesn't want to be called Rebecca Urbain Stamos, but at that time she was Rebecca Urbain Stamos,
Mhm.
who I would say isn't known for her acting ability, and I think that's shown in the first couple movies. They don't give her many lines. She's there kind of to look weird in the blue
The
scales
blue
and
scales
the
and the bodysuit,
red
yeah.
hair. So Sabretooth in that movie was the biggest disappointment in the whole thing because
Yeah, right. He just looks weird, right?
yeah, and I was all excited for that fight in the snow, which is this big part of the trailer, and
Uh-huh.
then you get to that fight scene, and it's like 3 seconds long,
Yeah,
and that's it.
it's like some bad wire work on top of it. It's like
Yeah,
Wolverine on bad wire work, if I remember correctly, kind of getting tossed up. They do like, oh, that looks like wire work really bad.
yeah. And then I remember when we were talking about this way back when. I mean, my brain's filled with this trivial memories that but I remember you and I had the same thing. It didn't seem like there was any sense of finality in that first movie because Magneto lives, everybody lives,
Uh-huh.
Because we were used to like the Batman movies, and the complaint about the Batman movies is always like, oh, they kill all the good villains, and then
Right.
you run out of villains. But you walk out of like that first Batman movie,
Yeah.
and you feel like, okay, I've seen the entire story
Right.
and X Men just felt like nobody was dying, nobody there wasn't any big climactic.
Yeah, and they really were kind of ahead of the curve on that. You know, they were that was
Yeah,
kind of the beginning and end of this whole how these movies structured since.
yeah. So X Men, not a fan of X Men.
So let's move on quick. We're kind of we'll just kind of go through them quick then. Like so X2, um, everyone liked X. Well, X2 was well liked, I think, compared to the first movie.
I would X2 is. It's been a long time since I've seen it. I wonder if I like it as much as I like it now. X2, I would say, is my favorite of the series. There's some cool Wolverine action moments if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so basically the X2 was X2 was kind of like the threat is over, but the new threat is uh they want to put mutants under control, and they're tracking the mutants using kind of this brainwashing technique, um, this Commander Striker, and they're tracking down the mutants that way. And Magneto has to kind of be a good guy in this one to say, you know, they're going to track us all down. And so this is kind of how the
Yeah,
series works.
it's the things that I liked about X2, if I remember, is I liked Brian Cox as the antagonist. Like I said, I like a strong antagonist. I thought he was a great antagonist. He played off.
I like.
Uh,
I think the stakes were like when the stakes are like us versus this guy. It just seems more. It's a lot more believable than like, oh, we're changing the whole world into mutants. So it kind of it's the right level. It's the right height of threat, you know, compared to the
yeah,
first movie.
and the thing I like because the first three X Men movies, the first two especially are really Wolverine centric because he was the most
Mm,
popular character, and this is the movie that I think most Wolverine centered
sure. Oh
because you
yeah,
have
yeah.
Brian
It's all about
Cox
him, yeah, finding his history. Yeah.
playing Stryker, and I thought Brian Cox did an excellent job. There's the Lady Deathstrike, who is a cool
Yes.
antagonist, like the anti-Wolverine.
Yep.
Um, her death scene, I think, is one of the high marks of the series when she gets stabbed with like an antimantium.
Oh, the liquid antimanium. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
it fills her
you
tear ducts. Yeah.
yeah, and in Wolverine, you can see that he's conflicted by that because he was a experiment and a tool just like she was.
Right.
So I really liked that scene. Um,
And everyone always. I remember everyone liked the when they attack the mansion, and Wolverine
yeah,
has his moments where he's just like he goes, berserker mode and is stabbing all the soldiers and whatnot.
yeah, and then that movie did the best thing because Bryan Singer's movies especially have this kind of trend of there being like a twist at the end. And the twist in this movie was that Magneto was on their side, and at the very end, because they have this thing where they're going to use Cerebro to find all the mutants,
Yeah, that's right.
and
They're gonna find all the mutants and kill all the mutants, I think.
yeah, and then Magneto switches around the plate, so he's going to kill all the humans.
That's
So
right.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden, Magneto becomes the big villain again,
Yeah.
and that was an intriguing twist. So X-Men 2, uh, in my mind, I haven't seen it in about 10 years probably, but it was the best of the.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while either. And it leaves us with the great cliffhanger, right, of Jean Grey and the Phoenix.
Followed up on tremendously
Yes,
in
by
X3.
by Brett Ratner's X-Men 3: The Last Stand. The plot of this movie is basically they've developed a cure for the mutant gene. Um, by by they've developed this cure from another mutant, and whose mutant power is suppressing the gene basically. And so uh, I think the idea is they're basically going to make mutants take this cure, and Magneto says no, we want to be mutants, so that's kind of so Magneto's attacking these people, and the X-Men have to defend him or whatever. So that's
Well, and
kind of
then yeah,
I think the
and Jean
basic
Grey
plot.
becomes Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, so there's this whole like I remember that part. Okay, so this is kind of looked upon as like a terrible. And it's funny because in the latest movie they do the little quip about the third one is always the worst one. They're coming out of
Yeah,
Return of the Jedi, and like they're kind of they could be talking about themselves, they could be talking about the Last Stand. It's kind of a funny little.
yeah.
I thought that was pretty cute, but
This movie was terrible though. I still I can't even remember much about the plot. I just remember the thing I remember most is the first time you see Wolverine, he's like smoking a cigar in like the danger room or whatever.
Oh yeah, sure. And the Sentinel
This is the first
walks
one with
in.
the danger room. They always
Yeah.
tease the danger room because people really always want to see the danger room. Like it's like I don't know why you want to see the danger room. They're actually fighting real people in the movies, but people want to see them train in the danger room. So they're in some holographic danger room, and Holly Berry's there acting terribly. Um, who needed to have a bigger part because she's Holly Berry and she won an Oscar and stuff. A theme that's repeated in the X-Men movies, by the way, throughout. Uh, and she like Wolverine smoking a cigar or something, and like somebody shoots something at him or something dumb, and
Uh-huh.
his cigar goes out, and he's like, "Oh, that was a great cigar," and I'm like, "Oh, this is the type of movie that we're in," like,
I don't
he's making these
remember that
dumb,
part.
like stupid quips
Yeah.
that like the bargain basement Batman and Robin type quips, that it's like, oh, this is gonna be bad, and then Cyclops dies right away.
That bummed
Um,
everyone out.
yeah, because he was in Bryan Singer's movie, the Superman movie, so he had to die right away. And Professor X dies.
Yeah, a lot of
Um,
people are dying, and they get shattered basically by Jean Grey or whatever you want to call whatever she's
yeah,
doing.
and Famke Janssen. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm
What,
assuming she's going to be watching the Gamer Breakfast podcast.
which character is that now? She's Jean
Jean
Grey.
Grey.
Okay.
Yeah, she was really big in that like period. Like she was in a bunch of movies in that one like actresses tend to do. They're like super big for a
Yeah,
very short
like
period
Helen
of
Hunt.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like prime example of Helen Hunt,
Helen
super
Hunt
big
was
in the
everywhere for
'90s.
a while. She's like Emmy, Oscar. See ya.
Uh, Famke Janssen, I always thought she did a decent job, but yeah, there's no material. Vinnie Jones, I'm always a big Vinnie Jones fan.
Same here, bro.
Starting with Snatch, where he played Bullet Tooth Tony. He played the Juggernaut.
Oh, Juggernaut. Yeah.
Juggernaut was horrible. They included the line "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch"
Yeah.
because
From
there was a
Internet Meme.
popular
Yeah.
internet video. Like, that's how creatively bankrupt like this show is. They had to take a line from a internet video and put it in there without it making any sense or but they just wanted to reference it.
Yeah. And I think, this movie tries to save itself at the end with it has, probably the biggest superhero fight we've seen at that point. We have several bad guys against several good guys all kind of clashing at Alcatraz, right? And
Yeah,
we have Iceman versus Pyro, and we have Juggernaut and Kitty Pryde. We have all these kind of pairings, but it just falls so flat for whatever reason. And then we have the big emotional moment uh, with Jean Grey and Wolverine as well, and that it just for whatever reason it just all falls flat. And I don't know if that's because like so many characters have died by that point, or um, just the movies has been you know bad up to that point. I don't know, but it just
yeah. It's not a successful movie on any level, and that's the problem. Like on a script level, it's terrible.
yeah.
Directing level, there's nothing in there that Like I cannot remember hardly any scene in that movie. Nothing sticks out of me as being visually interesting, or
Yeah.
Wolverine becomes like your crazy Uncle Wolverine, making little jokes, instead of being like a cool, silent killer badass,
hmm
Um, it's not a good movie, and
Yeah, Brett Ratner to
it's
thank for it. I remember there was all this controversy with him being the director to start with. Singer's movie that he wasn't doing all of a sudden because he was off doing
Superman.
Superman, right? Yeah. So, yeah,
And Superman, for all its faults, is a much better movie than X
yeah.
Men
So maybe
3.
he made the right call there.
Uh,
So we're in pretty dire straits at that moment, and we followed up with X-Men Origins Wolverine. And I remember when this first came out, like Fox was saying, we're going to do all these origin movies. We're going to do the Storm origin movie, and we're going to do, because maybe Halle Berry had just won her Oscar, or had won her Oscar a few years earlier, and was like, still kind of hot and whatnot. And
yeah,
we're gonna do the Magneto origin story, which kind of became first class, I guess. Like and, but instead the first one we got was Wolverine because he was the breakout star from this whole thing anyways. But I don't remember a whole lot about this movie. I remember he's a lumberjack and he's kind of his brother is Sabretooth and
yeah.
and
Different Sabretooth.
a different Sabretooth, yeah. And they
They didn't get they actually got an actual actor this time and not just a professional wrestler that they put in a costume.
and I just remember I don't really remember a whole lot about the movie. I remember not really liking it very much, and
Yeah.
I
Well,
remember
Ryan
everybody
Reynolds is
complaining.
Deadpool,
Yeah, Deadpool
obviously.
that they sew his mouth shut. I remember that part,
Yeah.
and take his eyelids off for some reason.
So it's weird that would end up being in Deadpool, which would come out this summer, which would be a huge hit.
Yeah,
Um,
that is very bigger than any of these X-Men movies have done. Uh,
yeah,
Deadpool did
but
like
it's
$300 million, which was better than any of the X-Men movies, and probably had the least budget of any of them. That's kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah. The X-Men Origins, I don't have a lot to say about it. It's obviously like it's kind of the black sheep of the franchise
Mhm.
because they have all this stuff in there that they never reference again. Cyclops is in that movie. They just did another Cyclops origin
Oh,
movie.
that's right. They rescue Cyclops or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Deadpool completely threw it out. Nobody really, and the sad thing about this, and the only thing I really want to say about X Men Origins, because it is primarily very uninteresting on, you know, except as there was a very good video game that came out of X Men Origins
Oh, okay.
Wolverine. That was a lot of fun to play. Other than that, the thing that I take away from it is Hugh Jackman. He's a tall guy. He's handsome. Now what you would consider like a Wolverine, like when you read the comics.
Right.
But the one thing I'll say about Hugh Jackman is he loves doing Wolverine, and you can tell. Like, like he's always doing these cameos and stuff. He
Hmm.
just loves being Wolverine, and he's if you watch they have this like nice comparison of him like in that first movie where he's kind of like doughy and stuff
Yeah.
to like where he is now where he's just like he gets super shredded for these movies.
Right. And he is
um
repping his 400-pound deadlift and everything.
yeah, just I mean he goes all out for this character, right? And outside of like one and a half movies maybe, they have not given him anything like good to do. And it's sad, it's like they gave him like it's his first time to do like this Wolverine movie, and that movie is just garbage. I mean, there's some points in there where it's almost comedically bad,
Yeah,
and that's
sure.
like the only good part. They have this fight at the end where they're fighting on this dam, I think, where they're fighting Deadpool, who is like
It's like a
uh,
nuclear power plant or something, right?
yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. And it's kind of interesting, like visually, because it's so terrible, but it's kind of funny in a way.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but I feel really bad for Hugh Jackman because you just want him to have like this one great Wolverine movie before he like gets too old to play Wolverine, and I don't know if he's ever gonna get it.
Yeah,
So
we'll see with this next one coming up, but yeah. Um so then kind of they do the soft reboot with First Class. And this was kind of this was before the Spider-Man reboot, I think. So this was kind of the first modern, not kind of the Batman's, kind of the
yeah,
first modern. Sort of a reboot. I don't know what you want to call it.
yeah. I don't know how they kind of handle that whole thing
I don't
because
think there was a plan really, because the second one definitely doesn't seem like it was planned that way. But with the whole referencing the characters from the, I guess, well, Wolverine is in the First Class, right? So yeah, I mean,
Wolverine's in First Class. He does a cameo, which is
yeah,
another like
where they're
just
collecting mutants or whatever, right? So,
yeah. Um, yeah, First Class is directed by Matthew Vaughn. I think Matthew Vaughn is a very good director.
hmm.
He's very influenced by Quentin Tarantino. Um,
He's the guy that did like Kick Ass, right?
he did Kick Ass, which I think is a fantastic like Tarantino influenced action movie. Um, there's like two or three action sequences in that are great. He did The Secret Service, um, which is Kingsman,
Hmm.
um, which I thought was very good. He's done a couple, but this was a movie where you could definitely see Tarantino influence from the start, where Kevin Bacon's doing kind of like a weird Christoph Waltz type amiable concentration camp guy, warden.
Yeah.
So he kind of Kevin Bacon kind of uses that performance, I think, and there's a really Tarantino esque scene with Magneto where he's hunting down Nazis in this bar. It's like a Tarantino movie. It starts off in a bar and there's dialogue, and then all of a sudden it escalates into
Oh
the
yeah.
violence.
Yeah, I remember that scene. Yeah.
That's a great scene.
They start asking him like where he's from, and he starts asking them where they're from and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it kills him with a coin or something like that.
Yeah.
If I knew we were doing a retrospective, I probably would have like got a little bit more familiar with these movies instead of going around like
That's all
10-year
right.
old movies.
I
But
think we're doing all right.
Fassbender's really good in it. James McAvoy's very good in it.
Hmm.
Uh, Kevin Bacon is weird. His character's weird. I don't. Uh, the '60s setting is weird too because
Yeah,
they
that's probably the most jarring part of the whole thing is the setting, I would say, like against the Cuban Missile Crisis and all this stuff, right?
and that's where you can tell that they had no idea of fitting this into like the larger pattern because like like the 1960s doesn't make any sense. Uh, the bad part about this movie uh, is the first class, like the actual X-Men,
Right.
are not interesting in the least, and that's been a problem like
And
repeated through like these movies. Um,
yeah,
like Havoc, no one cares about Havoc.
yeah, and he was never an original X-Men guy, right? That's he's like a '90s character, right?
Yeah, they changed all that stuff around, and they kind of have to because uh, of the timeline and stuff. They don't want to use
It's always
like
weird to me though, like you have these classic like the people you identify as like in the yellow and black, like Angel and Cyclops and Jean Grey and stuff, and
yeah,
you don't see any of them. It's
yeah,
just
they
odd to
don't.
me. You have Mystique
Yeah,
instead.
yeah. The original X Men in the comics are Beast, who's in First Class, Iceman, Jean Grey, and Cyclops. Uh, and they've all been kind of introduced into the X Men franchise. Beast was played by Kelsey Grammer in X Men 3, which is
Okay.
another thing I forgot and completely like,
Yeah,
which
he's like
shows how memorable
Secretary of
that was.
State or something, or like
Yeah.
Secretary of Mutant Affairs or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So he was old enough where they felt I think they could get away with making him like putting him in the '60s movie, even though that's kind of an insult to Kelsey Grammer. Um, but the guy that plays Beast isn't. I don't even know who it is. Isn't good. I would say. Um, and then there's a few other characters that aren't memorable. Havoc,
Hmm.
and then of course Jennifer Lawrence, who at that time was just starting to become a star, uh, played Mystique,
Hmm.
and so that movie had some good action moments. I think the climax at the Cuban Missile Crisis type scenario. I remember that being interesting. I liked Magneto at the end of this movie paralyzed Professor X,
Yeah, I
which
thought that
you
was
knew was
actually.
going to happen.
Yeah, I thought that was good actually.
And
I
then
kind of
they
like that.
immediately undo that in the next movie for some reason.
Right, he's taking the medicine that makes him okay, but he can't read minds anymore. But
Yes.
that's a strange combination of medicine, by the way. That
Yes.
heals your spine and suppresses your mind reading.
Hey man, you're not a pharmacist. I'm not a pharmacist. You don't know how it works, but apparently that's how it works. Uh, First Class, I would say, out of all the movies, is probably it. It's a half a good movie. I would say
Yeah,
half a
okay,
good movie.
fair enough.
Uh, January Jones is in this movie. All time epic, terrible performance by an actress. Uh, she plays the White Queen, uh, whose mutant ability is apparently to be like completely dead-eyed and just horrible.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten that.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon's in it. Kevin Bacon's he's trying to be he's trying stuff with his performance, which I appreciate because a lot of these movies get so boring.
Mhm.
Nobody takes chances. He's taking chances, but his character's just not interesting. That's not his fault; it's the script's fault. But it's like half a good movie. Uh, if you take out all the stuff with the actual X Men in it, it's probably better, which is kind of weird.
And then they're kind of doing this weird thing where, like, after that movie, I think the second Wolverine movie comes out.
Yeah, and if we can talk about the second Wolverine movie for a second, people would tell me that this movie is good. Those people are liars. This movie, I was very excited for. This is another one where the trailer got me very excited.
Right.
I,
You
as a
have this like
person,
Orient setting and um you have ninjas and samurais and whatnot. So I mean, you got kind of a you have a good environment for like it seems like a good setting for a movie, right?
Yeah, it's Frank Miller, who I, as a comic fan, I love Frank Miller. Still love Frank Miller, even with everything that's going on nowadays. He did a famous comic book series with Chris Claremont called Wolverine, which took place in Japan. It kind of added this samurai uh, aspect to the character.
Mm,
And then there's been a lot of great Wolverine in Japan stories, I think, as far as the comics go. It's just a good setting for him. And I grew up in the 1980s, 90s, as did you. So ninjas are awesome. Ninjas are awesome. And I know, you can say the Orientalism is uh, kind of strange, but that doesn't take away from the fact that ninjas are awesome.
yeah, that was that was kind of what I was psyched for too. And in the trailer we saw like, our silver samurai, even though it was kind of a weird imaging of him, but like that was always kind of a cool character that you were aware of as
Yeah.
a not even as a fan of not reading the comics, but like he was out there and everyone kind of knew of him.
Yeah, and as far as movie criticism goes, I don't like to be the dude that like picks apart plot holes and stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but the thing that I will never forgive this movie for is promise me a Wolverine versus Ninjas fight and not delivering a Wolverine versus Ninjas fight. That's like the one thing this movie had to do was give me 10 minutes of Wolverine slashing ninjas down,
Hmm.
and they didn't. They gave us one scene where these ninjas like shot at Wolverine with arrows, and they didn't even fight him hand to hand. And that was the maddest I ever did in the movie. And then the climax is him fighting some stupid robot
Yeah.
that looks terrible, and the whole plot doesn't make sense because they like this old guy wants to steal Wolverine's healing factor. So he takes away Wolverine's healing factor to lure Wolverine to his castle or whatever, so that he can steal his healing factor. Which I don't know why you'd make it so much easier for him to die if your whole plot hinges on him getting there so you can steal his healing factor.
Yeah,
But
that's a good point.
um, it doesn't really uh, click for me. There's a fight scene with Wolverine on a train that could have been a lot cooler than it was. I think a big problem with a lot of superhero movies in general and the X-Men movies in particular is I love fight scenes. I love action scenes,
Hmm.
and the action scenes are almost always disappointing.
Yeah, and that's where something like Daredevil is delivered like perfection almost.
Yeah, to a point. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, you know, to a point. But Wolverine versus ninjas should be no brainer.
and I'm talking about the
If you
Ben
gave me
Affleck
a half
Daredevil.
hour fight with Wolverine and like 50 ninjas, I would be there. I would
Yeah.
pay money for that every time. And they didn't give it to me, so this movie can burn in hell.
What about um the la- well, uh, the last two First Class movies? Like we had the second to last. What was it called? First Class United or something like that.
It was Days of Future Past.
Days of Future Past. That's right.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know where I got United from, but I don't remember a whole lot about this movie either, other than it's kind of the whole. It was kind of the plot to number two again, right? It was like the hunting of the
Um,
mutants.
there were a lot of similarities between this and two. Yeah, it started off. It started off with the old X Men. This is the one that kind of melded everything together
Right.
because it started off with the old X Men in the future.
Oh, and the Sentinels had taken over basically.
Yeah, so it was Ian McKellen. It's like the Days of Future Past comic book storyline. But you had Patrick Stewart, you had Ian McKellen, and Holly Berry, I think, was there,
Yeah, and Kitty Pride.
uh, and Kitty Pryde. And they send Wolverine back in time to the 1970s because now the X Men movies are going by decade.
Yeah, yeah. I heard the next one's supposed to be 90s, right?
So now they're in the 70s, and I like this movie in parts. As a whole, it's kind of inconsequential, but it's has some good Wolverine moments. It's really Wolverine's the main character again. After First Class, where they kind of gave him a break, he's back. He's the main character. He's the most interesting character. Hugh Jackman does some good stuff with him, if I remember. Fassbender's good. It's got another one of those twists at the end where Magneto turns bad again,
Mm-hmm.
tries to kill the president. And then Mystique, of course, by this time, Jennifer Lawrence has won an Oscar. So Mystique's part grows exponentially from being Rebecca Romaine Stamos in blue paint
Mm-hmm.
as kind of fan service to an actual character, which in the next movie would be taken to almost hilarious effect.
So let's talk
But
about the. So you went to this movie this weekend then?
I went just this afternoon,
Oh, okay, nice. So it's fresh in
fresh
your
in my
mind.
memory.
Yeah, and so um, X-Men, the what's it called now? Apocalypse. X-Men Apocalypse came out this last weekend. Two decent reviews and a pretty fast start it looks like. And it's kind of been we've already had the Captain America movie that did great and had great reviews. And so this is kind of as the superhero summer continues, this is kind of like the follow-up. And it's kind of a hard act to follow, I think, really.
Yeah, I thought Civil War was enjoyable. I don't know how good it's going to be on reflection.
Yeah.
I think I went into that movie with very low expectations because I really didn't like the last Avengers movie, and I'm pretty burnt out on all these Marvel movies. Uh, so it was better than expected. So.
So we get into Apocalypse, and if you ever wanted a big bad in a movie, I mean, you're not gonna get a lot bigger or badder than Apocalypse, I guess, right? So they kind of uh, like where do you go from here type thing. It's kind of like they pull out all the stops here with Apocalypse storyline.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I've read comics my entire, uh, you know,
Mhm.
since I was a kid. Read a lot of X-Men comics. What exactly are Apocalypse's powers?
I always thought he could get really big was his main power.
like just based on this movie, what would you say Apocalypse's powers are?
I mean, you want to say omnipotence almost be from like the just shifting matter around, but it's
He
obviously not
apparently,
there, or he would have won the movie.
yeah,
So,
he apparently can control like dirt.
yeah, he could.
He's got dirt control powers
Yeah,
and can make other people's mutant powers better,
that
and
part
can
I was.
assemble
Yeah, that part was
pyramids in the
interesting.
middle of a city.
Yeah,
Um,
there was a lot of dirt in this movie. There's a lot of dirt flying around in the air, people's bodies. I
yeah,
don't know. I thought it was kind of like it seemed kind of like a all or nothing though, like right. So I mean, I'm not off here, right? Like that's a huge villain, right, to put in a movie. Kind
yeah,
of
I think they were trying for it. They got Oscar Isaac. I'm a huge Oscar Isaac fan. I think Oscar Isaac is a super charismatic, great actor who's different in every movie that he's in. You
uh,
know, he was obviously just in Star Wars, um, but he was in Inside Llewyn Davis. He's in a movie called The Most Violent Year, I think, and he was in uh, Ex Machina,
okay,
and
I haven't seen
always
that.
plays roles like takes bold chances and stuff. Very charismatic guy, which is weird in this movie because they bury him, of course, in like tons of blue paint and
Yeah,
blue
he's got
makeup.
the giant cheek prosthetics, and it's pretty
Yeah,
one note character, anyways, right?
yeah. But which I thought was kind of hilarious because they put him in all this blue stuff. Um, this great actor, but Beast, of course, couldn't be in his blue stuff because we really need to see that actor at work there, and then of course Jennifer Lawrence was not in blue makeup for what good 90% of this
No,
movie,
she wore
which
the puffy jacket most of the movie. The puffy
yeah.
jacket with the fur collar, and yeah, and her reasoning was strange actually.
Yeah, her real life reasoning, I would assume, was like, I don't want to put on all this blue stuff, which who would blame her? Uh,
Right.
but but this movie is utterly hilarious in in the way that you can just see how Jennifer Lawrence's star has grown, like bigger than this movie, uh, because like in those first movies, Mystique is just like a hench person character. You know, she's Magneto's love interest, has barely any lines, has some cool moments because she turns into different people,
Yeah,
but
and she does some kung fu here and there.
yeah. And then in First Class, she becomes kind of a main character. Days of Future Past, she becomes a much larger character. And in this movie, like all the characters are constantly talking about how great Mystique is, like throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, it starts off with Apocalypse encountering a young Storm, like in Egypt when he's been resurrected, and she has a picture of Mystique up in her hovel.
Yeah, so
And then
she's
we
my
go,
hero.
then we go to the X Mansion and or what's it called Westchester, and we go to the mansion and all the kids are looking at her and everyone's saying how they look up to you.
Yeah, yeah, she's the one that talks Magneto away from being evil. She takes Quicksilver to go for his arc. The movie ends with her being a boot camp instructor to like all the young mutants that
Oh
just
yeah,
join.
that part with cracked me up. It's like she's being kind of harsh since they just saved the world.
Yeah,
It's like forget everything you know. And it's like they just saved the world.
yeah. I
Like
mean, I
Jean
know,
Grey just
like,
shattered Apocalypse. Why are you saying forget everything you
but
know?
it just seemed to me like it almost like, and I know this isn't true, but it was almost like Jennifer Lawrence like wrote the script herself.
Yeah.
like, oh man, I'm gonna write this cool Mystique movie, and everyone's just gonna be talking about who a cool Mystique is, and how like great and awesome she is. This was a weird movie. There's a weird scene where Angel is fighting Nightcrawler in a cage,
Right.
which would seem to be a huge disadvantage for a guy with wings.
Right. To
Um,
be in a cage.
to be in a cage with like electrified walls, and he's got these two extra wings that go out everywhere, and he can't fly
Lots
around.
of flapping. Yeah.
But apparently, he's some awesome fighter who's just beating everyone up.
And
For
and the way he beats them up is he punches them with the wings. Like I thought that was interesting. It's like this
he
is
fought the Blob. The Blob was in this movie
yeah, the
for two
Blob gets
seconds.
a cameo, um, which is kind of a waste. And as far as like the actual X-Men, we get kind of like this was really the real First Class this time around. We get Cyclops, we get Jean Grey, um, get Beast again, I guess. But uh, what did you think of like the Cyclops like showing up and all that?
Well, Cyclops. I mean, this is kind of Cyclops' arc. Is the movie is kind of um, he starts off kind of a punk kid and turns into an X-Men, turns into Lois Soldier. I thought he did fine. I
Yeah,
thought his character was fine. His brother dies in the movie, or apparently dies. Uh,
yeah, that part was really hard for me to follow. Like that whole action scene where like does the blast miss them and it burns down the mansion, or does apocalypses have some kind of explosion that burns down the mansion? Like I don't understand what burns down the mansion.
what happened? I think this is what I think happened. Is Havoc shot his like energy
Uh huh.
at Apocalypse when he was teleporting, and so it went through and hit something in the mansion and caused it to explode.
Okay, that
I
makes.
think the plane. I think the plane maybe. Um,
And then okay, so and he didn't. He was closest to the explosion or whatever. Okay.
yeah, he was close to the explosion, so apparently he was vaporized because Quicksilver saved everybody else.
Yeah. Did you
Which
like the
is,
Quicksilver part?
uh,
Like
yeah,
that
I
whole
mean,
like kind of funny. I'm messing around and
that
saving
was
people.
kind of the trademark scene of the second movie, or the Days of Future Past
Hmm.
movie. Um,
So it's kind of more of the
so
same for you.
yeah, it was interesting, visually interesting, which is good.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Like I thought it looked awesome, and I liked how he was being creative with the ways he was saving people. It wasn't just rushing everyone out. So they did a good job with that.
Yeah, it's a comedy relief type scene in the movie, and I think
Yeah,
it.
in general, he was the comedic relief, right? And
Yeah,
I thought he was probably kind of the funnest part of the movie. Sure.
I don't really know how the his powers work because it seems like a lot of times he's just like standing and like time is just apparently he's standing really fast.
He just perceives time slower or something. There
Yeah.
is one funny scene where they're jogging down a hallway and he's like jogging with them, and I thought that part was hilarious to me. I was like, why is he jogging with them? They're all jogging together, and it's like,
And maybe you as a gamer can tell me, was that Miss Pac-Man game supposed to be really fast? Because I don't know if you can play Miss Pac-Man fast and make the computer go as fast as Quicksilver.
so Miss Pac-Man, when it came out, was faster than Pac-Man, but there was also an operator, um, the people who own the arcades and put them in the Pizza Huts and whatnot. There was an operator option that's called the Miss Pac-Man Speed Up Chip, and it's basically a little ROM that you physically had to put into the arcade board, and it changed the code to the game to run faster. Now that Miss Pac-Man was running very fast, but um, Miss Pac-Man can run fast and way faster than. So if you're out in the wild and you're playing Miss Pac-Man, some will play faster than others. But yeah, that Miss Pac-Man was running very fast.
All right.
So yeah, there's precedence there. So they might have took a little bit of a license there, but like I thought that was
Yeah.
cute from an arcade
Um,
standpoint.
yeah, I thought this movie was uh, kind of pointless. Uh, didn't I mean I didn't walk out of the movie. It explains why Professor X is bald, which I don't really need an explanation for, and I thought they already explained it at some point, but they're constantly like jostling back and forth. Um, Magneto, uh, they give Fassbender a lot of stuff so he can cry. There
Uh-huh.
were a lot of crying close-ups of people in this movie.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, Fassbender has about 3 or 4 scenes focused on his face where he's crying.
Yeah, I did notice
Professor X
that.
is
Yeah.
crying. Um,
I thought the Magneto stuff was pretty good in the beginning. Like I was invested in it at least, you know.
yeah,
It was all right.
I like the part where he went back to kill uh,
The
the
factory
guys in the
workers.
mill. I thought that was kind of an interesting bit of characterization.
Yeah, I thought like I was saying to Callie, I was like that seems kind of harsh. He's gonna go kill the factory people now. Like not all of them were like ratted him out probably.
Yeah, but I kind of like that because Magneto as his core should still be an antagonist, um, even though he kind of goes back and forth between protagonist and antagonist all the time. Uh, it was interesting in that scene because Apocalypse comes and just kills everyone. Uh, which again, one of my problems with this movie is that Apocalypse as a character is very ill defined as far as what his abilities are and what his motivation is, and what he can actually do. Because he goes in there and like through the movie he's like constantly just like killing people,
Mhm.
by making them like just meld with the dirt or the
Yeah,
stone or on. And then he's in these fight scenes with these X-Men. It's like, why don't you just do that?
right.
Like I was very unclear as to what the extent of his abilities were, and it impacted my enjoyment of the fight scenes because I just didn't know what that character was capable of. I
Yeah.
mean,
I my problem is so it's the same lines as when he disarms all the nuclear armaments. That part is really strange to me because it's like his whole goal is to get rid of humanity, right? But at that moment, he's like controlling all of humanity that he wants. And so, like,
Yeah,
it's like there was probably a better way to do it than just like disarm all the nukes. I don't know. That part was really strange to me.
yeah. I
At
thought
first,
that
I was
was
like, oh, he's gonna cause like a world war or something. Like that's kind of where you think it's going, right? And
yeah, and
then,
I think that was the point of that scene was to make you think, oh my gosh, they're actually going to blow up the world. Um, but they didn't. He just shot him into space.
right, which I guess makes
But yeah, I
sense.
mean, it seems like he could use those nuclear weapons if he wants to destroy the world.
Yeah, I guess
But
maybe he
I
didn't
just
want mutant casualties or something, but yeah, the
yeah,
motivation thing is strange to me. You're right.
no, I was very unclear on his motivation and what he wanted and what his powers were. I think Oscar Isaac's a great actor. I mean, I think he tried to be as interesting as he could. Um, I am unclear as to the motivations of his helpers. Um,
Oh, Olivia
I don't know if
Munn
he's
as Psylocke. Who else do we have? Angel. I guess
yeah,
they
because in
just
the
wanted more power. Was about it.
yeah, because in the comics he always has the four horsemen of the apocalypse, and he had that at like the very beginning of this movie. I think those are supposed to be his four horsemen, the people on the pyramid
Yeah,
with
they
him.
had death and plague and all them.
Yeah,
His
and
buddies in the pyramid with. Which,
so
by
he
the
had
way,
his
who
four
designed that
horsemen.
pyramid? By the way, it's like, yeah, like it's like the same guy who designed the Death Star, I guess. It's like
Yeah.
you, you,
He didn't notice that
you
people.
knock out a pillar and like stone slides down the whole thing and crumbles the whole pyramid.
Yeah, the pyramid foremen did a really sloppy job in that in supervising their employees because apparently they were able to make these huge giant blocks and slides to go in and crush Apocalypse. Uh,
Yeah.
so, but so he had these four mutants with him, and they were Storm, who uh, he
She doesn't
meets in
really,
Cairo.
yeah, she doesn't really do much, right? The whole movie, she's just kind of standing around.
And again, powers are never really explained. I mean, if you know Storm from the other movies, you know what she can do. But
Right.
in this movie, they never really explain
Yeah, that
who she is or what she can
she
do.
makes some wind. Yeah, there's never like, what do you do? Oh, I control the weather. That's never
Yeah,
happens, right?
yeah. They show her like make some thunder in the beginning and then shoot lightning and fly. Um, they don't call her Storm or anything like that. I mean,
Yeah,
this movie's entirely dependent on you knowing who that
yeah.
character
They
is.
never call Apocalypse. So, yeah, kind of funny.
Yep. Then there's
This Angel.
uh, Angel who becomes Archangel with the metal wings. That is never explained how he gets the metal wings. He just Apocalypse just waves his hands and all of a sudden he's got metal wings.
Yeah, it looks
Which
cool.
yeah, I mean it's a cool visual. I mean it was a cool visual in the comics, but I think in the comics at least they went through like a medical procedure to give him those wings. Which again, I mean, always comes back to is like, what can
Yeah,
Apocalypse do?
he can
Like,
make metal out of dirt, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
or wings, or make metal wings appear out of somebody's back. Um, I was unclear as to whether or not Angel was on his side, um, or if he's brainwashed or what. He's kind of a punk in the
Yeah, in
beginning.
the
And,
beginning, he's just kind of a pit fighter, right? Like, doesn't seem like a bad guy. He's even warns him. He's like, "Hey, if we don't fight, we're both gonna die."
yeah, and then he comes in and he throws like some liquor at Apocalypse,
Yeah.
and then Apocalypse is like, no, I'm going to give you metal wings. And he waves his hand, he gives him metal wings.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was really happy he got metal wings and that's why he joined, or if he was being controlled.
Yeah.
'Cause it didn't seem like it was a very pleasant process to get metal wings.
No,
Like,
it was
it
better.
didn't
His
seem,
one wing was all messed up, so I guess he was
yeah.
just one metal
His
wing was
wings
better
got
than none.
messed up.
Yeah.
Psylocke is a complete cipher, which I think is mainly due to the acting ability of the woman portraying her,
Sure. She's a
who is,
comedic actress, right? Like actress, right? Like she's a comedic personality. So it's
yes.
funny to have her in this role that is like supposed to be an assassin type, you know. But
And weirdly enough,
She
they
looked
give
good. She looked like Psylocke, right? The costume was spot on and everything. But
it. That was really kind of strange though too, in the fact like nobody in the movie has their costume except for Psylocke,
Psylocke went
who's
in
wearing
full leotard.
a swimsuit. Yeah.
A good
Uh,
point, actually.
so it
Everyone else
kind
is
of
wearing
was
flight
almost
suits.
like, and the fact she didn't have any lines or anything like that, it was almost like a cosplayer. Like we went to Wizard World a couple weeks ago. It was like a cosplayer just like got into the movie somehow. Because it doesn't appear that she's an actress because she never has anything to act.
And is that whip?
Um,
Is the whip like? I like because I'm not really familiar with her character, but could she always make whatever she wanted out of that energy? I thought it was like blades.
in the comics, she's a telepath like Jean Grey, and then she can make like
So it's like a
a
psychic
psychic
blade.
blade
Yeah,
that she can like stab people in the head, and it makes their like
yeah, but she's not making
mind.
psychic whips and stuff.
Yeah, in this movie, I don't think she's a psychic. I think she just can make
Energy
a
weapon.
blade,
Yeah.
and that blade looks so terrible. Like
Yeah.
it was like 6 feet long, just
Watch
and it
her
was just
pointing up there.
absurd
Yeah.
because she's carrying around a sword too.
I noticed
So
that.
it's like, why do you need a sword if you have a sword that's attached to you the
Yeah, she
entire
should
time?
have two psychic blades or something instead.
And it was unclear as to what the psychic blade did, like if it affected their mind. Like she turned it into a whip and then was like choking Beast with it.
Yeah, that looked like a physical choking thing. So like, I don't know. Yeah, it was strange. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
who was
this
the
movie, I
last?
think
Who was the last bad? Who was the last horseman in it?
that was Magneto. He was
Oh, and
like,
Magneto. Okay, yeah, sure.
so like none of those characters are defined at all. I didn't find them interesting.
Yeah, and it was another case I think of like the stakes were almost like too high, to like make it interesting.
Yeah,
It's
I
like when
mean,
the stakes get like that high, it's like kind of just there's it kind of I don't know if it ruins the suspense or what it does, where it's like they're not gonna end the world type thing. I don't know. It just kind of kills it for me when the stakes are kind of that high.
yeah, I mean, well, we've just seen it in so many movies nowadays. You see, like, there's a scene in this movie where like Magneto's taking all the stuff out of the ocean, because apparently, like, Apocalypse taught him that you could
He can move the earth. Yeah, sure.
move the Earth or something. So he's taking all this stuff out of the ocean, and they show him, and there's these bridges, right? There's this shot of the bridges, and you see the shot of the bridges, and you're like, oh man, the bridges are going to blow up because we've seen that in a million movies by
Hmm.
now. I think X-Men 3 had a scene with a bridge,
Yeah,
and then
the Golden Gate Bridge. They move it over to Alcatraz or whatever. I think.
yeah, and it's just the destruction that you see in these movies. It's kind of like it's funny because the first X-Men movie seems so low stakes because of the lack of budget and CGI. Whereas these movies, they just destroy cities like on a whim. They're always in wreckage,
Yeah,
um, and it does numb you. You just don't feel like.
sure.
But I think it's also numbed by the fact that you don't know Apocalypse. I mean,
Hmm.
when he's having a fight with Xavier in this psychic dimension or whatever,
Right.
or I don't know if it was in his mind or in Xavier's mind. I don't know where, but what power does Apocalypse have there? It's just hard for me to get invested when I don't see. And then they bring in the Dark Phoenix again, kind of foreshadowing that with a Game of Thrones lady. I don't watch Game of Thrones. Not that I have anything against Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
I know she's from Game of Thrones. I
she
don't know who
is.
she played, um, but I know she's on that show,
Yeah, she is Sansa Stark.
and she did an okay job. Um,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
thought she was good, and I thought um, there's some weird stuff where like the part where they're invisible, right? It's like because she's bending these people's minds so they don't see them.
Yeah,
Like the
which
like
leads
the
into the Wolverine cameo.
so like the so like oh yeah, we'll talk about that 1 second. So, so like the visual is just like Jean Grey, right? Doing the doing the
Yeah,
Vulcan mind meld, and it just kind of looks silly, at that point. So like
yeah,
I just wish there was some kind of like dampening field look to it or something. I don't know, but that part kind of
yeah.
bugged me. It looked kind of like all the stuff's going on, like Jean Grey standing there, like it's kind of cracks me up. But
That stuff always cracks me up. Like if you see like the B reels and stuff where they take the special effects out and you see the people like moving their hands or like Cyclops would be like this, shooting his beam, and it's like
yeah,
they just look silly.
yeah, that's
Um,
what always reminds me of the Ewan McGregor in like the Attack of the Clones when they're showing him do the lightsaber fights. And like he's like making them sound like the sound, and like the director's like, "You're making the sound." He's like, "Sorry," and like he's like,
it just it just seems weird because it just seems like they just look so ridiculous. Um, which I think is the key to being an actor, I guess. Because I always look at an actor like when a phone rings and they have to pretend they're talking to someone on the phone, like that. It just seems so ridiculous. They have these phones and they're just making up this conversation in their head, but it is what it is.
and so that
So,
Wolverine cameo, like, were you just cracking up the whole time when that happened?
well, yeah, I'm a big fan of Wolverine, like murdering people.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that's what I think that character's best at. And he murdered a lot of people in this movie.
Hmm.
They put him in the Weapon X costume from the comics, which was an
Right.
interesting choice because he looked absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that was so funny. There's a part where he like looks at the security camera and goes like "Arr," or something like that, and like I lost it at that point.
Yeah, it seemed like it was probably a day's work for Hugh Jackman. And he loves playing Wolverine.
Yeah, and no
Uh,
lines this time, right? He just got to beat up some
no, yeah, I
guys
don't think
and
he
run
had any
off. And,
lines.
and did you laugh when he ran into the snow? That was pretty good too, right?
Yeah, he did look pretty silly running into this. Yeah,
But yeah, overall, you would kind of this is not a high watermark for the X-Men franchise for you.
well, it's difficult for me to say because I don't really think the X Men movie series has been very good overall.
Yeah.
Um, it's a watchable movie, which is better than X Men Origins, X Men: The Last Stand, uh, the second Wolverine movie,
Hmm.
uh, and the original X Men. I think it's
Okay, so
to
that's
me
not
it's
bad then.
more it's more watchable than any of those movies.
Yeah.
That said, it's always interesting to me because I think the Marvel movies, I'm burnt out on them. I'm a little bored with them. Uh, but it amazes me how much more professional looking and interesting those movies are than the X Men movies.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, right? And maybe that is like because we're always getting like these X-Men wearing their black flight suits and stuff, and it just something about it just doesn't look great.
Well, it's just weird. Like even like Superman versus Batman, I guess. But you look at these Marvel movies and you like, to me, I look at them and I'm like, they just seem kind of generic.
Hmm.
They've got high points, they've got good points, but they all seem to kind of have the same basic formula. There's not really big chances being taken. The bad guys are all formulaic, and you're like, but they're not actively bad. And so many of these other superhero movies that aren't made by Marvel are just actively bad, and that includes the X Men movies. This one's not as bad as some of the others, but I don't think there was much point to it. If I had to describe it, I'd say it's mostly pointless,
Hmm.
but it's watchable. If it Like if people came to me and said, "Hey, let's go watch X Men Apocalypse," I wouldn't say no.
You know,
Um, I
I,
wouldn't watch it myself again.
I like where it leaves the series too, with kind of your core X-Men team, like young, going into the 90s. So I mean, if we're gonna make a good X-Men movie, let's make a 90s X-Men movie, right? So I mean, like, it seems like it left it in a good spot for a potential next movie, right?
Yeah, that brings me into like one final point. I guess would be, it was interesting to me like how this movie was set in the 1980s. And there's a lot of cool stuff in about 1980s X Men and like Mohawk Storm. I was excited about. A little less excited when I watched the movie. Uh, but they didn't really use the 1980s setting very much.
That's true. And I thought there
Uh,
was a big opportunity missed there, like when they went to the mall. It's like you have four mutants going to the mall that are like young. Like there should be like a comedic, like there should be like some wacky hijinks scene here where they're like doing mutant stuff in the mall. I thought like I thought
yeah,
like there should be a Nightcrawler like getting a Slurpee or something, like some bullshit, like there was like some kind of missed opportunity there where like they go to the mall, like all you see is them walking out of Return of the Jedi, and that's all you get really.
yeah, and it just seemed to me like they could have, if they're gonna bother making these period pieces, then actually like First Class, I think did a very good job of integrating that setting.
Mm,
Um, and for Days of Future Past did an okay job with the 70s, but like the 80s, I'm like, oh, this will be kind of cool, because
yeah,
we grew up in the 80s and stuff.
right. But most of the movie
And,
takes place in Egypt or the mansions. Like you're not really
yeah,
gonna get the 80s out. Yeah.
so
All right. Well, I think that was a pretty good retrospective. We'll skip Deadpool for now. I mean, I guess we're gonna kind of count that. That's a Fox movie, right?
yeah,
And it's
that's it,
kind of,
yeah.
I don't really know like the relationship with Deadpool and the X-Men exactly, but I don't know. They must have the rights to him as well as an X-Men.
Yeah, they own the rights to every mutant character, I think. Anybody that started in the X-Men comics.
Oh, okay.
So,
So that's how it works.
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll leave out Deadpool now, but everyone loved Deadpool. You've probably seen it, so.
Deadpool was better than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
So,
it was fun. It was fun. And I thought I was like laughing when that I don't even know the character she played, but that MMA fighter showed up. I was like, I think that's an MMA fighter.
yeah, Gina Carano.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, Gina Carano is a terrible actress.
Yeah, but she's had some starring vehicles, but now she's kind
Yeah,
of was
she
relegated
was in a
back
Steven
to like,
Soderbergh movie.
yeah, she's relegated back to like kind of a backup character now.
Yeah. But I will say, like, I watched The Expendables 3 with Ronda Rousey.
Hmm.
Ronda Rousey makes Gina Carano look like Meryl Streep. Ronda Rousey's like the worst actress I think I've ever
Well,
seen
she's
in a movie.
campaigned to play Captain Marvel, but it's probably not gonna happen. You're saying, right?
Yeah, well, maybe she'll get punched in the face again, and we won't have to hear from her.
Well, I think we'll kind of wrap it up. We've been running about an hour and a half, so that's probably more than
Jeez.
anyone wants to hear.
Yeah.
But
Well, we need more. We need to circle back to the Target stuff.
I was also gonna do like a thing about DC Rebirth, but maybe we'll do that some other week. So
Oh yeah, we can certainly talk about DC Rebirth. I got lots of opinions on that.
yeah, we can. Did you read the? Well, just did you read it or
Yeah, I read it.
kind of
Yeah.
a interesting ending, huh? So we'll,
Yeah, very expected to me.
yeah,
But
we'll talk about it next time. And
all right.
I'm gonna cut this off now. I have good theme music to play. Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to hear. Can you hear it or not? It's pretty good.
No, I can't hear it.
Okay.
But
Well, I'll have to pipe it through next time. But I'm gonna try to post this to YouTube. We'll get a YouTube channel going. And I'd just like to say, everyone else, if you follow the Twitter Gamer Breakfast, if there's a Marvel book that I'm buying that week, I usually post the code through the Twitter. So like, if you're the first one to see it, I'm reading like Star Wars, reading Darth Vader, so this and that. So You can follow our Twitter and you'll see that stuff there, and then I'll post this kind of stuff there too. Until next time, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah.
Later.
Thanks. Talk less next time.